I'm pretty basically all my recovery. Someone I adore, I love dearly, and please help me welcome George. I'm George, I'm an addict. Hi everybody. Thanks Paul, I love you too. I was going to say something about that, but it's great having relationships in this fellowship and having people. When I was asked who I wanted to chair, and someone that's been close to me for a long, long time, and that's why I chose Paul. All right, step 10, 11, and 12. Earlier today, I was at a meeting when we were talking about self-acceptance, and I talked about with like these are getting into the upper steps, and my self-acceptance at first tells me that I'm not qualified because I didn't work them good enough, or that's, and what we talked about in self-acceptance, or at least what I talked about, was having to accept where I was at and how I felt before I could do something about it. So if I denied that's how I truly felt, I was never going to get beyond that, because I wouldn't be acknowledging who I was and how I was feeling. And that was, my initial reaction is that, and then the second one, the ego takes over. Man, I could just cream the topic, But, that's the battle that goes inside me, not good enough and being too wonderful, And at any given day, I can be anywhere in between, taking a personal inventory, it's as we continue. Generally, I do that on a daily basis, and sometimes it's, I don't have pencil in at 10 o'clock at night personal inventory. I'm just not that, what would be the word that I'm looking for? But, my life isn't that scheduled, okay? It's sort of like I work actually like between 3 and 4 jobs. I'm debating on whether the one I actually call a job or not, but like I have a busy schedule, but in between time I have a lot of downtime, and it's not like I don't punch a clock. I wake up at 8 and work till 4. It can be anywhere from 8 till 11 o'clock, anywhere in between. So there's times where like I don't have a lot to do. What I do is I take a look at my vocational life, and in that includes like schooling. Meetings, phone calls, and these are all part of, talking about work in a meeting, it's part of recovery for me. This is who I am today, and this is what I need to, I have goals, and then working through this fellowship in this program is what got me to where I'm at today. So what I do is I take a look at, am I doing what I need to be doing to accomplish the things that I want to accomplish today? Or is there something else that I should be doing? And it isn't like a guilt or right or wrong type of thing. It's time to focus, because if I'm not, if I don't have a goal or a direction I'm heading into, then I'm not really heading anywhere. And if I don't have any direction, I don't really have any self-worth. That's kind of what gives me, accepting who I am is part of it, but also, dreaming and striving to be who I want to be. So like those two have to go hand in hand. And the only way I can get from point A to point B is if I look at where I'm at point B and see what I need to do, to get to the other place. And and that's what I do. Like, and I do that sometimes a few times a day. I also do that with my feelings, where I'm at with my wife. Boy, I constantly look that over, and not guilty. No, I just it's not a matter of, like I said, a guilt, but I really have to. When I find myself in the position of it's the other person's fault, I'm not really doing an inventory. What I'm doing is I'm shifting the blame. When I'm taking an inventory isn't to cleanse my soul of guilt. It's to take a look at what can I do for me today? How can I get better? And that may be, she might have started it, but if I jumped in there with both fists flaring, did I really help the situation out? Did I really get what I wanted out of it? Did I want to be red in the face, screaming, spit flying? Probably not. So how could I handle that differently? And and that's what I look at, things like that today. Yeah, I do my share of blaming, I'd be perfect if I didn't. But that's what I try and do, is to see how, when I go through situations, how could I have done a better job, or did I do a good job, and and go from there. I used to be very thorough, like with some days I write things down, goals, things I need to do, and some days I don't. Probably more days I don't. I don't really record an inventory anymore, like a journal or anything. At one time I did do that. Sometimes I do what I need to do, or maybe a little bit more. I don't do everything that I could possibly do. That's where I'm at. Yeah, I like working hard and getting better, but I also like taking off sometimes too. So again, that's a balance, and that's what recovery is to me today. Is where am I at in that balance? Have I, and what's great about going to meetings is, people know me and they ask, how are you doing? Well, I look you right in the eye and I tell you how I'm doing, and and if I'm not doing well, then it's a lot of BS, and it stinks when it starts coming out, and I know that, and and more so for me than it is for the other person, and that's why one addict helping another is without parallel for me, is because I can bullshit myself all day long, but when I start bullshitting you, I really get red in the face. It really doesn't work for me. And it does say, when we're wrong, promptly admit it. I do my share of that today, and that's what I really try and take a look at where, to me it's a positive. I don't even know if that's the right. I look at it as a learning experience, and is it a repeat experience or is it a learning experience? Repeat experience means that I like the outcome and I like how I acted, and I want to keep repeating that. A learning experience is I learned that, like I burnt my hand when I touched the fire, so probably don't want to do that again, and that's what, like, sometimes I may need to burn myself a few times, but but that's the process I go through, and I try and stay out of right and wrong, try and stay out of negative, positive. I try and look at it, it's a learning experience or it's a repeat experience, and that's what works for me. I don't need to convert anybody here. If you're into guild and good or whatever works for you, and that's what's great about this program, is that you can be more on a religious thing than I am, or whatever, or more of a purist level with the steps. We can both all get together and share with one another and learn from each other. The 11th step, through prayer and meditation, and this is also where I struggle with too. Well, with all of them, I can tell you that I do, but I'm not a big prayer, and that's where I'm at. I do more meditating than I do praying. If I pray, it's more just being grateful for having the tools and having the recovery. I don't really pray for anything in particular, but to be honest, I don't do that much of it. It's just not something that I ever really got into. And I guess it has to do with my upbringing, where I came from. When I first got in here, I was an atheist, and I thought I should skip steps 2, 3, 11. That's really where I was at. And I told my sponsor this, and in my first go around through the steps, my higher power was the NA fellowship, and that's how, and it worked for me. And that's why I said that this program's great, because you can name 30 different religions, and that can be your higher power. This can work. I was atheist. That's what I really didn't believe in God, and it worked for me. I was able to see that NA as a whole was a higher power, or power greater than myself, and it worked. So basically, what I do, my meditation. I know if I can't meditate, then there's a real problem. I'm not dealing with issues. I'm not dealing with how I'm feeling. Usually, when I meditate, sometimes I fall asleep. But what I do is, for me, meditation is not encouraging those voices that when I first came in used to occupy most of my time, was these conversations going on up here. And it's, like I said earlier, on one hand it's, the negative, and on the other hand it's, the ego. And when I first got in here, there was a lot of conversations going on, so much that I'd sit in a room and I really wouldn't hear what the speaker had to say, So today when I meditate, what I do is I try and really just cleanse my brain of not having any thoughts, not letting any kind of conversation go. And my imagination just sort of takes off. And what it does is, for me, it gives me a feeling of being renewed, I guess, It's like when I say cleanse my mind, it's sort of like the feeling I get when I get out of the shower. I kind of feel like real good there for a second. That's how I feel mentally. I'm not ready to go take a 100-question exam or anything. But I just feel like I feel refreshed and good. And it's a good place to be. I guess the opposite of that would be maybe working hard. 12, 14-hour days, 2 or 3 days back to back, and getting 3-4 hours sleep, and and somebody asks me what time it is, and I bite their head off that they should be able to afford their own effing watch, and so that's where, and I can get there, and and when I say it, like I mean it with all, inside, and I look back and I go, that was really stupid, what, and it's just that I'm, just emotionally, mentally drained, and I'm just, letting go, and and it doesn't make it right that I behave that way, but I understand why I behave that way. I'm not taking care of myself, and meditating, not medicating. Meditating is part of taking care of myself today. I'll leave that alone. Spiritual awakening. I used to think that was when I go to these service conferences and stay up for 2 days straight. And I had some kind of awakening. I don't know what it was, but my understanding is a little bit different today. And it's not something that's forced. It's not really an event. It's a process, I would guess would be the best way to describe it. For me, my understanding of what my higher powers will for me today is just to be the best person that I can be. And what he does is make available a lot of tools for me to find out what that is. And that's basically by sharing who I am with all of you, by reading, by using, there's a lot of outside sources outside the fellowship for me to find out who I am. And again, sometimes it's learning experiences. Is this who I want to be? Well, you know what? Probably not. I'll try this. And, and I tried different things. I mentioned I'm going to school a couple nights a week. Actually, I changed careers, I guess about 3 years ago. I changed careers by choice. I didn't lose my business by choice. But I was in a family business, and it was, very traumatic. We went out of business. I had no idea where I was going. And that's, it was kind of scary. Been around a long time, and here I don't have a job, I don't have a business, I have no idea where I was going with that part of my life. I had to start making choices. But anyway, get back to spiritual awakening. It's a process of finding out who I am and where I'm headed. And that's, I guess, the best way that I could describe it. Somewhere in that process, from inventorying who I am, and in the process of trying to be who I want to become, the spiritual awakening is just a result of that process. I know that I'm heading in the right direction, and I know that I'm doing what my higher power's will is for me today. And I just have that, that feeling that I'm going in the right direction. It's not a dramatic event. I used to think that that's what it was, I'd see something or, whatever. It's just not, that's not how it is for me today. Today it's just the process of trying to become a better me. And it talks about carrying this message to other addicts. I do that in a lot of different ways. I guess the biggest way is, ever since I've been clean, I've never really kept it a secret that I'm in the fellowship. I don't necessarily blast Narcotics Anonymous' name over there, but the fact that I don't use anymore and that I'm in recovery, I just let people know that, and people see the way I live, and over the years I've had a lot of people come up to me, my cousin, my nephew, my daughter, I don't know that I've gotten scores in the fellowship, but I've been there for people, that have needed me, and I've enabled people to see that this program does work. There is hope. You're not a drug addict for the rest of your life as far as using goes, that you can change, and there is a choice today on how we live. And, actually people that I meet today that I share that with, that aren't in this fellowship, they don't believe it. They're, because I really have come that far, and that's hard for me to believe, like, because I carry around that I'm a high school dropout drug addict. That's like, part of that thing that I carry around. And yeah, that is part of who I am. But like, I've grown past that today, but a lot of times when I share with people, that's how, part of what I see, and that fact that they don't see that tells me that I've done a lot of work in here, and while I'm getting into practicing these principles in all our affairs, like, that's a tall order. And one of the things I remember going back to the third step was making a decision. I told my sponsor, I said, I don't understand, what that means, and basically how, for me, what I arrived at is that, to the best of my ability, on a day in and day out basis, I do the best I can to follow this program, and practicing these principles in all my affairs. To the best of my ability, I do that. I am now a product of this fellowship. I mean, I've gone through the steps a number of times. I remember I got a resentment yesterday. Somebody told me that somebody deemed that I must not go to meetings anymore because they haven't seen me, and part of it hurt because part of it's true. I'm going to school 2 nights a week. My wife works 2 nights a week. I got a 14-month-old. It's just not happening like it used to. I don't get up and go. Everything that I do in my life is scheduled today, and I got twins on the way in April. So, I mean, and that's where I'm at. And when this person told me that, I got really angry. Like, I do the best I can. And that's all that I can expect out of myself. And and then I get off on my head with all kinds of stuff and carry it. But I guess really, like, when I share it with other people, and I don't know that this is necessarily the venue I needed to share it in, but a lot of times that struggle that I go through, gets out, and I need to be okay with where I'm at. You don't need to be okay with where I'm at, and practice these principles in all my affairs. I do the best I can day in and day out, and I don't go around my job being an NA example. I go around my job being George, who is a result of working this program and having gone through the steps with a sponsor and share with people and all the learning experiences I have. That's and in the process, I do let them know I'm in recovery. I don't usually use NA, and I guess that's just something that I learned early on. If I was to use then people may look at that NA don't work, so I just let people know that I'm in recovery. And actually I find out a lot of people I talk to, are in it in one way or another. And actually one of my jobs I do is appraising, and I go in a lot of people's houses, actually in Philadelphia. And quite a few houses I've gone in, I've seen the basic tax. One day I was walking out there, key tags hanging out the doorway in the deadbolt, and I whipped out mine. I go, hey, I got some of them too, So it's kind of neat, like the ways, and of course I'm just carrying on being who I am, and then as I'm leaving, I notice that, but my behavior on a day-to-day basis, isn't something that I'm ashamed to tell them that I'm in the program, because I'm behaving in a way that's good for me, and I always think that that's carrying the message, because I know some of them, like I see the key tags are kind of faded. I know that it might have been a long time since they've been renewed, and so I let them know that like I'm doing okay, and I mean, you just never know. I don't take their inventory. I don't ask them if they have a sponsor. It's not my place, but I let them know that I'm doing okay, and I got a key tag. And sometimes I bump into people where I do have that conversation. Do you still go? What are you up to? Where are you at? And that type of thing. But I don't know. I'm really grateful that the committee asked me to speak. I'm also grateful for the just the life that I live, the friends that I have. My wife, my kids, or child and kids to be, just the opportunity I've had to live the type of life that I lived. I'm really happy. I really, prior to getting in here, I was 17 when I came in. I really didn't think that I'd live to be 18. If I did, I probably wouldn't make 21. So this is all gravy. I mean, I just never expected, that I get to be as old as I am today. And actually, like, I start looking, I forget what it was, but like I was starting to get into that generation gap thing. Like I couldn't understand like the kids that are 18 to 20, like I said, man, I'm getting old, Yeah, it was kind of scary because I know, oh yeah, now here it was. Somebody called me Paige's dad. My little girl's only 14 months old, and they said that's Paige's dad. I'm like, Paige's dad? Like, I'm George, man. What do you mean? What's the deal? And somebody said, yeah, that's going to start happening. I'm like, wow, yeah, I'm getting up there. I am like that, but I still see myself as, that teenage rowdy that, came in, and that's not where I'm at. I just never, I never pictured myself, they talk about beyond their wildest dreams. Getting my license was beyond my wildest dream. Really was. I just never knew, I knew I'd never get there because, number one, I had to save money. I had to go set an appointment and show up and then take the test. Like, 3 out of 4, I just knew I couldn't do, But here I am today, and, it's just great to be here. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, George.
It's your part of the meeting. Anyone would like to share? Child.
They come up here? Yeah. Okay. Hey, how you doing, Charlie?
I'm an addict. My name's Charlie.
Hi, Charlie.
I hate these microphones. Just got done speaking on the concepts, and I wanted to get to a meeting where I could share where I've been. I haven't been going to a lot of meetings, and my sponsor's been telling me, like, you've been clean a long time. Just live in 10, 11, and 12. And if you sink down where you got to start doing the corrective action and making amends by admitting what you did and why, to whom, properly, then you can live in 7, 8, 9 for a while. So what's after that? He said, well, if you want to keep it secret, then you can live in 4, 5, and 6. So what's after that? He said, if you want to get the urge to use, you can hang with 1, 2, and 3. I said, there can't be nothing after that. And he said, yes, there is. There's page 3 when you got here. So, George talked a lot about living life, and we've known each other for over 10 years, and, I was just sitting back here and I'm realizing that, I didn't have a home group my 3rd year and my 6th year, and this is like the 9th going into the 10th year, so I got a 3-year cycle that's a pattern. But it's not a harmless cycle. It used to be 1 meeting on a good week, 2 on a bad week, now it's 1 on a good month, then it's one every 2 good months, or, maybe I'll go to a meeting by the end of the year. I left the home group with a resentment, and I've been enjoying life, but there's been a gnawing part of me. It talks about guilt and shame and the weight, and I really felt ill speaking at a Narcotics Anonymous meeting on something else, a pretty highbrow topic thing, and I haven't been going to meetings, and I needed to share that. I wanted to get it off my chest just so I feel a little bit better about it, so somebody, the next time you see me, you can say, hey, you're accountable now, we're each other's eyes and ears, like, did you do any correction on that meeting things per week? And in spite of that, I still meditate every day. The shower thing you mentioned, I do it every morning and every evening, right before first breath. I ask for not be able to use a day at a time, and not stand on the strength of the days behind me, but live in today and today's blessing. And I want to share something. This guy shared something about 3 months ago, and it's been carrying me. It's my only solace. He talked about living beneath his privilege. And he had multiple years. He's like, I'm living beneath my privilege. And he went on to explain it. And I just felt like I just sat there numb. And it's been like a mantra for the last 90, 120 days. But I can't live on that. George was talking about, we've been tutored better than that. I know I certainly have. I yelled at my wife the other day, and I went to bed at 4 when I got home from work, and she woke me up, and I basically went off, and I had my blindfold on because I work nights. And we were arguing, and I couldn't even see her. She says, look at you, you're too stupid to take the blindfold off. And that was sort of like a metaphor for where I've been, and as I sat back, and I did a meditation on it, I asked for cleanliness of body, and freedom from gluttony, especially for things that I just love, things that are bad for me, in large quantities, and not just tangible things, but attitudes. And I pray for, not be possessed by selfishness, fear, and inadequacy. And that's a result of a lot of inventories over the years. I own my disease, and I get real specific with the God of my understanding. I don't ask him for nothing except allow me to own what I am without you. Allow me to own that. Then I don't got to be that. I can be who God put me here to be instead of some cheap imitation or something, or who I think I have to get to be to get you to accept me because I can't stand myself, if that makes any sense to anybody. You know, and I know what it's like to live in selfishness, fear, and inadequacy with multiple years clean. You know, I haven't lapsed on it in a while, but just that episode with the alarm clocks, all three of them going off 2 minutes apart the other day was enough to just like, right button. You know, my first sponsor said always look at the evidence, the 10 steps about that. When I don't need to do corrective action, it means I can live in 11 and 12. And people think meditation is some kind of yoga thing, a lotus position. Man, my first meditation experience was when my mom gave me a $100 Casio piano. I had about 3 years clean. I took lessons as a kid. It was one of the first things to go. And when I put my hands on that piano and started playing again, nothing else existed. That's meditation. Something that you do that nothing else exists. And it does take skill, because the Cracker Factory is just out for lunch. You know, it's out on the lunch break. It's coming back and punching in later in the day. You know, and I have to realize that the prayers at 10:30 in the morning when I wake up aren't going to carry me at 1:30. I need a whole new set of prayers. And remember, a young woman one time asked me. She said, "I don't get this meditation thing. I've been praying since I got up, and I prayed at noon, and I'm praying through the day. And I don't know, I'm praying at 4, and I'm praying at 10, and I prayed the whole day." Nothing else existed but her and her prayers. That was a meditation. You know, you're looking for something that's already there, because we don't define what it is. And you know, for me, you guys see me on the bike, when I'm out on the Harley and I got some blues on the radio, nothing else exists. That's a meditation. For you, it could be something else. And there's a diversity of experiences that come with that. I mean, you know, every person I get to, my wife asked me, "How do you know when you're ready to go from 10 to 11?" It's like, well, they've canceled the last reservation. You know, the last reservation gets canceled at 10, because there is no meditation as long as that reservation's like a gnawing toothache in the spirit. And that don't mean you'll be reservation free. I'm certainly not. New things come up. I mean, I was a homeless junkie, and now I'm a happily married man with a regular job that pays pretty well. You know, I don't know who this is. It's new territory, and the only way I'm going to be learning is to know the God of my understanding and the people He's put in my path as tutors. I think it's important to share that with time. I'm still somebody's sponsee. You know,
Right.
I mean, I could have all the titles in the service structure in the world, and the chain of sponsees 2 miles long, but I'm still somebody's sponsee, and I could throw a rock from my house to his. You know, it says sought through prayer and meditation. If I'm not seeking, I won't get the solace. I won't get the privilege that that guy talked about that he was living beneath. You know, it's just like scratching the surface. And having had's an awesome place to be, because there's no going back from there. I mean, I can't understand anybody wanting to pick up after truly living in the place of the 11th and 12th step. You know, having had a spiritual awakening. All the spiritual awakening is an accumulation of all the spiritual experience in the context of the first 11 steps. That's all the awakening is. It's where all the spiritual events tie together to one big flash, where everything fits. And it's like the book. It can't be explained in words, and I'm not going to do justice trying, even though I'm pretty adept at the language. I'm not going to fiddle in God's territory. There's no words in any language on this planet to describe it. And once you're there, it's painful not being there. I mean, I'm an addict. I'm addicted to that stuff. You know, I can't just say, well, you know, in all my the first day I practice principles in all my affairs, y'all will be the first ones I tell. You know, ain't been there yet. You know, if people talk about 24/7, I've had 22, maybe 23 hours and maybe 15 minutes, but never the full 24. Why? Because this thing punched back in. It was off lunch. But we do get better, and we flourish. George, I'm so happy for you having two babies at once. I'm sure we'll be talking about that as the years come by.
As the days.
Yeah, one of the best. I mean, we're talking about flourishing. You know, we're talking. It's okay. It's not arrogant. It used to be when I used to pretend I was doing good and I wasn't. But it's okay to say, yeah, come in here as a homeless, dureless, suicidal junkie with no job skills, and I couldn't even put 2 sentences together. You know, I remember George said venue. Man, it's a cool word, man. I remember him from years ago, man. That's a neat word. I like that. You know, and that's us. We have fun. Hopefully we enjoy each other's company enough that we can tell each other the truth. Part of the spiritual awakening, the sponsor I have today, it's one of my least favorite. He says, you know, when you have the awakening, you're responsible for the truth. And I asked him, what do you mean? He said, the truth. Like telling somebody the truth, knowing they're going to kick you in the groin and spit between your eyes on the way up, and sticking to the truth for the truth's sake. And I never heard that before. I mean, some of you guys know Jimmy. I thought that's not for me, man. But it has to be there, or I can't maintain a successful marriage and a job. I have to say, hey, wait a minute, that's bogus. Wait a minute. It's very short and sweet. No longer this. Just say, this is what it is. Let's call it what it is. Let's go from there. And the later steps give us the freedom to do that. I'm merciless. When I take my own inventory, if you don't believe me, sit with me later. Cause I'm doing an A step with a sponsee. I'm going to be doing my own while I'm doing his. Because there's new stuff to add. Because there's new circumstances and I don't know how to react to them. Mm-hmm. But by the grace of God and my understanding and the wonderful people He's put in my life, this thing can shut off. That's the blessing of the meditation. All I ever wanted was for this to shut off. Just for a second or two. And my early meditative experiences were not good. Because as soon as I shut the piano off, this thing came back. And today I can play before I go to work. I can take a ride on the bike. I can stand on one foot and just balance and do the other things that I do. There's a myriad of possibilities. Me being the person God would have me be is a mystery. It scares the hell out of me, but I wouldn't have it any other way. And that's what happens if you stay. And bridge that gap from the first 10 steps of who you weren't and who you aren't. To not just glimpsing it, but grasping it. And who we really are and who we fought against being the whole time. I look back and say, my God, I did it. I took inventory. I thought, gee, I really had my head up my ass the first 3 years. And some of you here remember that. And then I thought, well, some of the 4th year and maybe 5th. Oh, definitely 6. I was co-chair for Paul. 7. And I thought, you know what? I've had my head up my ass till recently in recovery. I need to wake the hell up and allow the help to help me the same as I did when I got here. Good things are happening all around me. They're happening for me. But they won't be happening with me unless I say, hey, I'm having trouble to be a part of. And sitting here just reaffirmed everything that I've been missing for the last couple months when I've been doing 1 or 2 meetings a month. Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie. Somebody else? Okay. Yeah. Hi, how you doing?
Hi, buddy. I'm an ag named Craig.
Hi, Craig.
Oh boy, I really don't know a whole lot about the 12 steps or the 12 traditions. All I know is that I have had a spiritual awakening. It happened to me while I was up in Doylestown Hospital, 4 East, which is a mental health unit, and that happened on October 15th. Now I've got exactly 30 plus days clean. Thank you. I had 6 months at one point, but the animal came back and I went out again. I'm an Eagle Scout, and I'm assistant scoutmaster in a Boy Scout troop. So even before I came here to NA, I already had a set of 12 tenets to live by. The Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. So I had 12 steps to live by. I had the Scout Oath and Law. Now I strayed from the path, so to speak. I started when I was 18 years old and off down to college, down in Virginia. Got mixed in with the wrong crowd. Got nailed with an ounce of pot. Possession with intent to distribute, which is a felony. But I dealt with it, being 350 miles away from home. Home's in Southampton, it's been that way for 23 years. It was a tough thing to happen. You know, I went clean for about two weeks. Went clean for about 2 years after that fact, after I got arrested and all that. But then I went back out again. Never even stepped into an NA room. Just was clean for 2 years on my own. Then I stepped back out again. Last summer, I went ballistic. I don't know why. Don't know what the reasons were, but I landed myself up in, well, let's just say, I landed myself in another institution. I spent 2 weeks there. They're setting up with the whole regimen of medication. You're bipolar, you're this, you're that. You know, you got a label now, and now you got to take this medication for the rest of your life. So I admitted to that, and I took it. But then the gears started turning, and I think, well, that's okay. I can start weaning myself off of this. So I went into the rooms, was clean for 6 months, stopped going to meetings, so I thought I didn't need them, went back out again. It's past October, the engine started to cycle up. I couldn't sleep, my diet went, my whole entire eating habits went to shit, and I landed my ass back in the hospital, like I just told you. And I had a spiritual awakening while I was in the hospital. And I know that's one of these steps or one of these traditions, or what do you want to call it, is spiritual awakening. Well, it happened. I came to that realization that I cannot live the way I had been living. I cannot keep on going the way I was going, for there are only 3 places to go: jails, institutions, and death. Well, I've been to 2, and I don't want the 3rd. So it's how I base my opinions on. It's what I base all my judgments and my expectations on. Are now the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous and the 12 tenets of Boy Scout. Because I'm still an assistant scoutmaster, and I'm still going out camping with kids. And it's like my release. It's like my mental health thing, I guess you could call it. And I won't get into meds or anything like that. It's just the way I am. But I've listened to Charlie here, and I've listened to some other people in the rooms here at the convention, and a lot of things make sense now. Before I didn't understand what being an addict meant, Before I didn't understand that NA is an open hand, and it always will be an open hand. A hand to grasp in times of trouble. A hand to comfort in time of need. It's been there, and I know where to go and get it now. Thank you for letting me share.
Thanks for sharing.
Sure, great.
Yeah.
Keep going back.
My name is Jim.
Hi, Jim.
Hey, Jim.
Hi, everybody. I was just kind of sitting back today and listening. Charlie asked me to chair the meeting, and I kind of sat through that. And there was even like 5 minutes, at the end of the meeting, and he was like, "You want to say anything?" Because I know that I've been kind of mentored through the years of like, there's 20 people in a room. If you're chairing a meeting, it ain't service. If you're yakking, so. And I just felt real calm and felt like, I don't need to share. And then we were sitting in here, and I was listening to you guys and listening to that gentleman that was just speaking, and it reminded me that, like, not only is it good for me to be able to sit and listen, because it's just taken me 8 years to be able to do that on any given second, but it's also my responsibility to share when it's time for me to share too. And I can't be more eloquent than a lot of the people that we're talking about, 10, 11, and 12 today, but I can share my experience, and that was, like taking my own inventory and clearing the way for myself to be able to just cut some of that squirrel cage out of my head. And I can remember really feeling spiritual when I had about 5 years clean, and figuring I could meditate away all the things that were wrong with me, and whether they were things that I had done to myself through all the, crank acid, loose pot, things that we don't talk about, because it doesn't really matter where we came from, and ended up getting taken away from my house in handcuffs by 4 cops. That it took them, it took guys about Charlie's size, it took them a good 45 minutes to get me out of a hallway about this long. And I thought that I could be at one with myself and not have to do some of the things that I knew that I needed to do because of just because of the way that I am, whether my genetic makeup is that way or whether I destroyed some things. It's not for me to question. So I found myself back in a nut hut for a weekend, and it was really a wake-up call for me, because my meditation, when I was trying to shut my eyes and I couldn't just couldn't stop that from just really running, was about truth. I need to find the truth. I need to find the truth. I need to find the truth. You know, and the truth is that I'm an addict and my name's Jim, but also that I have problems that need to be addressed, you know, in other ways. And when I come here, this is the place that I need to address my addiction problems, and that I don't need to bring all that in here to create controversy. I know what I need to do for me, and I do it. And if you know, it's not up to me to judge what people think about me or the things that I have to do. God knows I tried things the way that people thought I should be, and the way that I thought I should be. And the truth was that I needed to do certain things every day. And I don't like being crazy, and I don't like my kids seeing me being crazy, and I don't want to go to that spot anymore. I'm just really glad to be here, and I know there's a lot of people in the meeting, and I'll give you guys a chance to share too. Thanks for letting me share.
Thanks for sharing.
Last time I was at a 10, 11, and 12 workshop, I think I was coming up on 10, 11, and 12, and it was like the most sparsely populated workshop I ever saw, man. I was like, oh, it's only a handful of us making it here, you know? So it was really good to see this place packed. Because typically, like, it seems like that when I go to a convention. You go to the upper step workshops, and sometimes you can throw a frisbee in them, you know? But the relationship workshop is standing room only, you know? No, if you want a good relationship, go to 10, 11, and 12, you know? It's weird being here, man. It's weird, like, being in a place where I'm at spiritually. Like, people were talking about that, and, you know, until you hear a thought shared, you always think it's you and you're unique, but it is odd to be who I am today, you know, and it does take some getting used to. And it's frankly a shock. Like, it's just never going to stop being funny. It's almost like, you know, my life is still kind of a cosmic joke, but now I get it, and the joke's on them, because now I'm clean, and it's okay, you know? And having these steps in my life, I have a new sponsor, and I'm back on the first step, but going through these 12 steps, like, I just never thought I'd even, and, like, I messed up everything. I gave up on everything. I messed up everything. I fell short so much that it was a way of life, and I had a hard time believing that there was any other options for me, you know? And, like, part of this process is, like, in, like, 7, 8, 9, like, I kind of became proud of the person that I can be, and it talks about that glimpse that we get. And 7, 8, 9 specifically made 10 like a possible thing, because what 10 for me has become is a commitment to be that person that I glimpsed, that it talks about. And I mean, like, the basic text has never really lied to me, man, and the harder I try to follow it, it seems like the truer it becomes, you know. And when I was in that 7, 8, 9 process, and you know, gaining some of that humility, because humility and self-loathing can't exist at the same spot. That's it. That was an incredible hit for me to find that out, you know, because I thought it was humility that I loathed myself, and I thought it was self-centered to feel any other way than that. You know what I mean? Like, the homecoming queen was self-centered, the captain of the football team was self-centered. I wasn't self-centered, you know. But at one point in my life, when my mother was passing away, I got this opportunity to see this person that I never knew before, and the person was me. And what I found myself doing was sitting by her bedside, and she was unconscious, and she was dying, and I knew she was dying, and the only thing that I could do was be a son. And it was unfortunate that it came to that for me to sense the fact that I really was a son. And at that time, like, it was mentally and emotionally the most painful thing I've ever been through. But spiritually, it's been the pinnacle of anything I've gone through, because I thought they'd be a comfort to her. And reading her Louis L'Amour book, because, like, I just didn't want this woman to be alone in the place that she was at, you know. And I got to see this person that N.A. promised me I could be, and I couldn't even imagine, because there wasn't anybody around looking. There wasn't anybody around holding my hand. There There was no like cameras on me. There was nobody coming in. Oh, look at that. You know, it was just me and my principles and an opportunity to practice them. And what happened in that time, you know, it's almost like another one of those paradoxes, another one of those like little NA traps that they throw you. Is when I walked away from that situation and she finally passed away, I couldn't kid myself anymore and say that I couldn't be that person. It was like getting 24 hours clean. I couldn't tell myself anymore that I can't do that. That's not for me. I can't stay clean. You know, like that place of denial that keeps us away from the place that God wants us to be was shattered then, because I got that glimpse, and it was proven to me that I can be this person that's beyond my wildest dreams, that has compassion and empathy and dignity and integrity that I didn't know I possessed. I didn't know that could happen, and I knew that we could recover, you know, because y'all were talking about it, but I didn't know I could. I really did, you know. And 10 is commitment for me to be that, a commitment to strive to live in that place that I got to visit during that time, you know. And it just so happens that place becomes an easier place to live in when I'm working 11, and when I realize that 12 is just a payoff. Like, I always thought that spiritual awakening was going to be about this spiritual conclusion, or it was going to be about this spiritual epiphany, you know. And we talk about, like, you know, God kind of taps us on the shoulder day one and says, you got it, you know, are you ready? You know, you ready to give this a shot? You know, that's way in the beginning. That's what makes all this possible. But the awakening is just as a result of, just like it says, as a result of these steps, we have an awakening of the spirit, you know. And it's like, it's the practicing part of that step is trying to be that person. There's so much surprising about this program. Like, you know, I thought like this kind of stuff was for chumps, man. I thought this was a prison, you know. I thought like surrendering to something that I didn't think of was for idiots. I really did. You know, free-thinking people of their own volition don't need a set of rules to do. Free-thinking people, I never had a free thought in my life before I got here. Now I'm free to think and I'm free to feel, and like I'm just never. I just feel like I'm never not amazed by this process. And the good deal is like, it used to be like I got to sit there and go, wow, look what it did for him. Now it's like, man, look what it's doing for me. It really is like that, you know. And I'm not out to impress anybody anymore. Like, I don't have to like go do this and go be there and go be anywhere, because dead alone in a room, I'm impressed. I'm shocked, you know. I laugh my ass off when somebody asks me to sponsor them, because look, I've been in this game the whole time. I know what the story is. And when people say, you know, will you be my spiritual guide through the steps, I just go, well, you know, let me get with my sponsor and my God, and I'll get back to you. And I walk away just going, like, do they know? You know, have they been paying attention? You know, this is never going to stop being funny. This is never going to stop being funny. But we laugh together, you know, because we all been there. You know, it's nice to be like, you know, like, when I did my fifth step, I felt like, ooh, you know, I'm there now. I'm one of them done up fifth step people, you know. My awakening is just the steps work, and they work beyond my wildest dreams. They really do. Not because the trappings have gotten better. It just feels good to be alive, man, and that is beyond my wildest dreams. Because it was a task forever. It just was, and it's not. It's a pleasure, man. My goal is shit fit happy, and on most days I have it. I'm having a good time. I used to say that in my addiction all the time, man. Say, look, I'm just out to have a good time, leave me alone. You know, and people would like come down and bring me down and talk about, like, you know, you got a problem. I'm just out to have a good time, man. Just leave me alone. I still am out to have a good time, but I'm having a good time now. It ain't a joke, man. I'm having a good time. You know? That's all. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing.
What's up, dude? How are you?
Good.
It's nice to be here. I used to be one of these convention junkies, man. I haven't been to any for a while. Like, promptly admitting stuff. I know that, like, I do it, you know what I mean? Like, I do the wrong thing and someone pulls me on my shit, and I promptly admit it, and I fight it all the way down to when it's coming out of my mouth, you know what I mean? And I mean, it's so hard still. And you know, it's the disease of addiction, man. You just don't want to admit you're wrong. I always want to be right. I want to be perfect, and I'm so far from perfect and right all the time that it's a shame. You know, and then getting into meditation, like, anytime I always meditate, it seems like I'm by myself, and when I meditate, I get so relaxed. I just go right into like a trance, and I just fall out. And that's from my mind racing so much all during the day and doing 400 things. And you know, I could have a plan of a day, and about 30 different things change my whole plans. But at the end of the day, I wind up where I'm supposed to be. And you know, and there's a lot of days I just say, you know, I just get up and I just don't even make plans. I just say, you know, let God take me wherever I'm going. And you know, 12-step, I do a lot of 12-step calls. I help a lot of people. I believe that in order to help yourself, man, you got to help other people. And that is embedded in me. And I remember I got clean in prison, and I was in a prison cell that had a window, and I was looking out. I was up in the upstate in a jail, and the jail was on a mountain, and it was raining and lightning and thundering real bad, and it was thundering so bad in the courtyard, it like came down and it cracked, and I thought like the jail was going to blow up. I mean, it was bad. And I remember hitting my knees in jail, and I remember saying to God, please, you know, this is the first time I'm doing it, because I got my first year clean in jail. I was like, this is the first time in my life I'm doing really something for myself. Please let me get out of here and be clean when I get out of here. And if I do that, I'll help people. I committed to helping people at that point in my life, and it winds up that you know, I'm in a situation where I help people a lot. And then I remember when I had my spiritual awakening. I was out of jail, and I was on a roofing crew. And this roofing crew, you know how roofers are, they're angels. And I'm on this roofing crew, and the first thing they do is they go down the way and they cop my drugs of choice, man. And I remember getting up on top of the ladders. They call that hanging 10, because they were all getting high in the cab, and I was up there, man. I was saying the Serenity Prayer, and I was thinking, man, I can't even believe it. And on different occasions, I would go to my boss and say, look, I don't want to be on that truck, and he would take me off that truck for like a week or two, and I'd always find myself back on that truck. So one day, I mean, my disease was like talking to me, and it was saying, you know, you can get high once, no one's going to know, don't make a meeting that night, don't call no one, just get high and go home. And it was talking loud, man. I remember standing in line, buying a piece of candy or something, or a tasty cake and a soda, and I remember saying the Serenity Prayer, please get me through this day. So I got back in the truck, and my prison number was Y5723. And we go down to South Philadelphia, and we pull up to a house. And the number on the house was 5423. So I didn't think nothing about it. We did a hot code on it, and we jumped back in the truck, and we went further into South Philly. And the next house we pulled up was 5723. I was like, something's going on here, man. So we did that roof and everything, and then we jumped on 95, and I was hanging 10 on the ladders and stuff. And this car gets in front of us, and it's a Delaware tag, and there was 5 numbers in it, and it was 57423. And this car was like God guiding me all the way back to the shop, because from the time we got on in South Philly exit down at Washington, it went all the way up to the shop in the far northeast, and this car was right in front of us. And that was my spiritual awakening. And the spiritual awakening I got from the message I got from God that day was, yeah, I could have went and got high, and I could have did whatever I wanted to. And I wouldn't have been fooling anybody. I would have been fooling myself and God, and I would have wound up back in prison with my number. And that was my spiritual awakening. And I had 2 years clean before I really decided this is what I wanted my life to be. You know, that I wanted to be clean and recovering and be about Narcotics Anonymous and help people and do the right thing. It was such a transition of changing my life from the way it was to the way it is now, and it was a lot of hard work. And in my family, man, it was just so acceptable to be nuts, you know, to party and get high and drink and just do whatever you wanted to do. I was allowed to smoke pot at the age of 13. I was allowed to have 10 people over my house every single day, and we were allowed to drink and smoke in my basement, smoke pot. And like my whole life when I was young was a big party, man. And then, you know, after I started experimenting and got the habits, and I thought I had that first flu. Meanwhile, it was a chip. From then on out, man, it wasn't fun no more. You know, after I pulled that first habit. And then, you know, for those years, I was trying to get here. I knew I had a problem. I didn't know what it was. And you know, I was blessed by God, no question, that I found this place, and I came here, and I was a relapser, man, for 3 years, and then I went to prison, and I was like, you know what, I was willing to do anything I had to do not to go back and forth to prison anymore. And basically what I had to do was get involved in Narcotics Anonymous, man. I got out, I got involved in service, and I stayed committed, and I did everything that people told me. And I was one of them people, man, I didn't listen to anybody. If you told me to do something, I did the exact opposite. And then when I got a little humble and came in here and did what people told me, man, my life has changed. Like, you know, I couldn't even have dreamed of life this good. And it's all due to Narcotics Anonymous, man. I don't go any other place. Narcotics Anonymous is it, where I get my recovery. And it's the place for me, man, because I'm an addict through and through. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for sharing, Dave.
Betty, and I'm an addict.
I am.
And I want to thank Y5723 for sharing. I don't know, I figured I had to share now because this is probably the closest we're going to get to getting our old softball team back. So I figured I had to come up here and share. 10th, 11th, and 12th step. Thanks for sharing, George. For me, my experience with the steps is, man, your heart really gets racing when you're me, I guess. Coming up here. This is, I guess, it's like a good rush, though. You know, you come sit up here and it's free. But the 10th and 11th and 12th step for me, in my experience, is what I learned is they're maintenance steps for me. And with the 10th step being an extension of the 9th step, and you know, when I made my list, and I like I shared earlier in the other meeting on the 9th step about making amends, and there's still amends that I haven't made on that list. But in the 10th step now, you know, I'm aware of all the things that I've done in my active addiction. It got put on my 4th step. You know, I talked about it in my 5th step. And I was willing, you know, like it says in the 6th step, to become entirely ready to get better, man. And in the 10th step, now, it's about my everyday life and really taking a look at things on a daily basis, you know. And, you know, I can remember, like, acting out on a defective character and being okay with it, you know. And about a week later or something, you know, it would take a few days for it to set in and realize the destructiveness of that shortcoming that I've acted out on. And I guess what happens when you keep coming back for this addict anyway, like those couple days to a week have been like turned into like, you know, overnight delivery, you know, because now when I act out on a defective character, like I feel the result of that like right away. It doesn't take a week anymore. And I guess that's because this program works. You know, I ain't really figured it out. But I think that's it, you know. And so to take an inventory for me on a daily basis, which like I haven't really been doing, you know, like I heard people talk about, you know, not being able to make meetings a whole lot, you know, my life has gotten me to that point too, and I'm forcing myself to try and make like 3 meetings a week. But those other things, those other tools that we have, like I need to start practicing on a daily basis, you know, because I've been comfortable for a little while now, and it's scary, and things are going good. But I want to start doing things, get back before the shit hits the fan, you know. And the bottom line is doing these things on a daily basis, like it talks about, and living these principles in all our affairs, which I don't do on every day, every minute of every day either, you know. But you know, I'm better than I used to be, and like taking a look at my actions and my behaviors on a daily basis helps me grow, you know. And like it talks about in the 11th step, you know, sought through prayer and meditation. You know, I pray every day, you know, and I try and meditate every day because, like, I have a good opportunity because I live alone, and it's real quiet there, you know. And like I'm into like candles and stuff, and I'll light some candles, and I'll just sit back and I'll put the radio on, and I'm listening to music that I never even thought I'd ever listen to before. Nice, like, calm, peaceful music, you know. And sometimes that's how I meditate, just to quiet my mind, you know. Like I heard someone sharing about just, you know, I think it was you, just shutting off those voices, you know, and just to get quiet and like it talks about in the 11th step, like the prayer, like talking to God, and the meditation, waiting for the answer. And like I've never heard a voice, but I felt something real good inside where I was nice and calm. And whether it's, you know, that intuitive part that we all have that talks to us, and it's good positive stuff, you know, that I can apply in my life, and I try it, and I guess that's coming from my higher power, you know. But like I said, I've never heard a voice, but I've heard other addicts also. I've prayed and heard the answer through you, and that's my higher power talking to me, you know, because I think you touched on that, you know, the rooms being our higher power. And I don't know, the 12-step, the steps are awesome, man, and the 12-step for me is just showing up sometimes. You know, showing up, raising my hand, participating in my recovery, and indirectly helping somebody else, you know, by sharing my experience. I help myself. I 12-step myself by keeping an open mind and listening to you, you know. And that's just carrying the message. And I got lost for a minute there. All right.
12's the last one.
12's the last. And I was going to get to. We don't do 13 here?
About 13.
All right, well, let me stick on 12 for a minute. The spiritual awakening is the part I was looking for. That comes in the 12th step, but it also came in the first step for me. The spiritual awakening also happened in the first day I walked in. My very first Narcotics Anonymous meeting was at a convention, and like Danny or Y5723 was talking about, I went to my first meeting. I was on my way there, and you talked about the license plate, and mine worked like in a reverse kind of way because, you know, the guy that was 12-stepping me, he didn't 13-step me, thank God, but he 12-stepped me, and he was taking me to this convention, and we stopped at Burger King, and he bought me lunch because I didn't have any money. He bought me lunch, and I had changed my large Coke to a medium Coke, and we had this food, and the total came out to $6.66, you know, and he goes, "Get the large soda," you know, and you know, and I was like, "What the fuck's going, you know, like what's going on here?" You know, like I was ready to go. You know, that was the last day that I used 7 years ago. I'm 10 days short of 7 years, and that was the last day that I used, and I didn't know that was going to happen. But I felt as though that was my lower power saying, "Where are you going, man? You know, I'm still here. You know, I'm still being faithful to you. You know," and my first car in recovery, I got my license tag, 3666. What's going on, man? But I used that in a positive way because I said everywhere I go, my lower power is right behind me, man, on my back bumper. And I kept that with me, you know, and I used that in a positive way because I knew as long as I was making meetings, my higher power was giving me what I needed. And right behind, all I had to do was turn around, man. And there it was, you know, like I'm not into all that like devil stuff or anything, but, you know, I don't know, whatever that was for, I don't know why that happened, but I always knew that I still got the tag in my, you know, got rid of that car. But, you know, but that number's come up, and every time it comes up, you know, it's a reminder for me to know like, I could go back to hell if I choose to, you know, but today I choose to like be free, you know, from active addiction, and if I show up on a daily basis and practice these principles in some of my affairs and work the 12 steps, thanks George, everything usually works out okay, you know, and thanks for being here. Thanks for letting me share.
You taking over, boss?
Go on, you want to read this for today?
Just for today. Tell yourself, just for today, my thoughts will be on my recovery, living and enjoying life without the use of drugs. Just for today, I will have faith in someone in NA, like George, who believes in me and wants to help me in my recovery. Just for today, I will have a program I will try to follow to the best of my ability. Just for today, through NA, I will try to get a better perspective on my life. Just for today, I will be unafraid. My thoughts will be on my new associations, people who are not using and who found a new way of life. So long as we follow that way, I have nothing to fear.
Close with a moment's silence, followed by the we verse.